at the notes as well. Brilliant. We're live. And I'm really, really pleased to be joined by Dr. Jakub Šimeček, who is Chief Executive Officer of an organization called Trimt, based in Germany. And I'll let you do the brief intro there, but we've been talking a short while, not too often actually, but we're very new to each other as a connection, but really interested in the work you're doing. And I'm delighted to have you on the podcast. So welcome, Jakub.
Thank you for having me, Matt. Hello.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So without me tripping over my words when trying to pronounce the acronym of Trimt as well, maybe you could give us a brief intro of Trimt and tell us about the work you're doing and where that fits in. And also I can, looking at your career, and when people look at your career, you can see you've got the background in chemistry and radiopharmaceuticals as well. So I'd be really interested to hear how those interlink, but yeah, over to you, sir.
Thank you. So yeah, the Trimt is a shortening of targeted radiopharmaceuticals and molecular theranostics, which it's a bunch of weird words for a normal human being. And so to explain what this means, we are R&D and early clinical stage, I would say more pharmaceutical than biotech company. And we focus on design and development of the compounds for so-called targeting of life-threatening diseases, especially cancer, with the focus on pancreatic cancer, or for example, head and neck cancer, and also other types of cancer and fibrosis. The unique thing about what we are doing is that we are combining the biologically active compounds, which means those are compounds that you inject and like a magic, they found the right place, meaning the disease, and leave all the other healthy tissues in your body intact. And these compounds have very unique ability also to bind the radioactive elements. So we are working with radioactive metals, and then we can detect the radioactivity. So we can virtually, in the first approach, really see the disease through the detection of the activity. And then after we have this diagnostic image of the status of the patient, we go to the second stage where we replace the radioactive element with other radioactive element and give the compound the therapeutic potential. And this is what we are doing research on. And this is where we are moving towards the clinical phases and hoping that this may be helping the patients with diseases that haven't been, let's say, improved in output over the last decades.
Wow. And you joined in 2021, is that right?
Yeah, we have founded the company approximately 1.5 years ago, together with two friends of mine.
Fabulous, great. And when have you been working together before in a similar industry?
Yes, this was a very interesting story. Everything else but planned. So the founder of the technology, Hannes Notny, is a guy whom I met probably already 15 years ago, as he was a postdoc in the laboratory where I was working as a master student on my project. And the other colleague, Dirk, is somebody whom I met then much later during a project I was working on during my work for a pharmaceutical company. So we met then, we know each other maybe some 3 or 4 years.
Great. And how are you finding the role of balancing a CEO, founder, but also somebody who's active in the business development and the scaling and growth of your organization as well? How's that been?
Yeah, this was really interesting how the project developed, because the structure of the company we have today is completely different from what we planned before. So the original idea was to somehow I had a feeling we should be three guys founding the company, not one or only two. And in the beginning, we wanted to have somebody from the medical area on board, because Hannes and myself, we are both chemists. Mm-hmm. And but during different discussions, we actually found out that we need somebody who knows how to cope with the money and financial issues. And Dirk was a guy I met before, and I knew that he's running a family owned company, and that he's a CEO there, and that he's caring in principle for everything. So I knew he's the guy who knows how to do business. And then we came into discussion, and luckily he joined us for foundation.
Gotcha. And how have you found setting a business, or moving from maybe what some might see as a stable career into your startup scale up of your own organization?
Yeah. It was a balancing the risk, I would say. The risk was, let's say acceptable, because I mean we were in different situation than three young founders just finishing the studies, standing there with the zero. So we all had jobs, we already all had some savings, so it was easier for us at least to start. And the risk was to say, okay, what happens if it goes wrong, if we do not manage, if the compounds are not working, if the results are not positive? And well, so the risk would be looking for some other job. So actually it was quite okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And how is your, just sort of an interest in general topics, how's your career evolved over time to the place that you're in now as well? And I'd be interested to hear as well about the people and mentors that might have helped you along your way to get to a position where you've been able to confidently set up your own business.
From one angle of perspective, it was very straightforward. On the other hand, if I think about it, it was everything but planned in detail. So I was always interested in chemistry, and I started studying the general chemistry at Charles University in Prague. And at that time, I was interested in material science. But by the accident, I was offered a place in the laboratory by Professor Peter Hermann. And this was the moment where I appeared in the area of people working on bioinorganic, metallic bioinorganic compounds for medical applications, for magnetic resonance imaging predominantly, which is a very broadly used technique. And I found it really interesting, and I got a very new topic that time, 15 years ago. And I started working on the compounds for so-called positron emission tomography, which is also the medical modality we are working with our compounds. And then at the time, this was the time I met my colleague Hannes. And after that, I actually moved for master thesis to University of Helsinki, where I was very warmly welcomed in the team of Professor Anu Airaksinen, and the people there just showed me from the scratch how to work with the radioactive materials, because this was the second part. So I had a compound, I needed to learn how to work with the radioactivity. And then in the third stage, I moved to Munich, to Technical University, where Hannes was working that time and invited me to work on my PhD thesis there. And then somehow we put all these things together and developed a couple of new compounds. And at the time I have seen, okay, the only scientific or academical career is probably not my thing. I'm more like, let's say, doing different things more dynamically, etc. And I moved to industry, worked with some, let's say, technological solutions for working with the radiopharmaceuticals. And then last five and a half years, I have spent in sales department of a pharmaceutical company selling the radionuclides for the therapies. Okay. And there I could build the huge network that we are also using for developing our products now. And It was difficult to leave because it was a good job and I had very nice colleagues and I learned a lot. But yeah, at the time, I always wanted to found a company and working in my own company. But in life science is very difficult, especially because of financing. Everything what you do is extremely expensive. Yeah. So there was never a product or a chance that would be really like, okay, that's the thing. Now you leave the job, now you go to risk. And then on one day, Hannes came to me and said, look, I have this, and you always wanted to found a company. So what do you think about it? And I said, like, wow, actually, it looks really good. So, well, we definitely should give it a try, because if we don't do it and somebody else does and it works, then we will be pretty unhappy with that.
Yeah, you'll be kicking yourself. Absolutely. Yeah. And that large network of yours, you know, got me thinking about partnerships and creating an ecosystem that you can sell and partner with as well. How important is the sort of partnership model within your industry and the technology that you're using?
It's extremely important from two reasons. The reason one is that this is very, I mean, we already said medicine, personalized medicine or precision medicine. We spoke about radioactivity. So this is showing that this is very focused, small field compared to, for example, let's say cardiac application in the medicine, or diabetes or something like that. And so you really need to know the people, and you work with the people together. This is not a business where you sell the things once. These are long-term collaborations. This is building the trust, because it's very specialized and always takes time to bring the new product. So also based on the experience and trust between the people, if you say I have something new and it's great, if you're a newcomer, so probably it would be difficult to persuade the users or the distributors or collaborating sites that it's worth to try it. And if you work with the people on the long term, then of course it's much easier entry to the market.
Yeah, it's really interesting because a lot of the CEOs that I work with as well, they're very, something that's very important. It doesn't matter what level of role somebody is coming into the business. It's very important that they understand and have built some kind of network at a senior level. So valuable that you've got that experience. And just on the perspective of people as well, obviously Trimt is a young business right now, but you've worked in larger organizations. You've had a real variety of experience. In your opinion, how does a company or a market leader become a market leader through its people? And what are your thoughts on growing that sort of people organization?
I mean, you will probably hear it from, or you have already heard it from different sides. I mean, this is the bottleneck. It's difficult to get exactly the right people to the exactly right position. It's like there is a lack of experts, and the right people also in this specialized, or especially in this specialized field, are absolutely essential. So you need experts, you need people you can trust, you need really high efficiency in what you are doing, because there is a competition. You have to be fast. Every mistake you do costs you a lot of time and money, and it's very important to have the right people. And this is also something where I'm really happy that we as a company, we have only very few employees, but those are excellent people and experts in the field, and I'm very happy that we work with them. And also we are working with a lot of external partners because it's also like in the stage we are now, it's also responsibility towards your employees, and you have to think twice before you offer the contract to somebody, because you really do not know how the company will perform in 1 year. And you are, of course, open to take a risk as a company founder or company co-owner, but you cannot expect the same level of a risk from the employees.
Yeah, hugely important. So you're leveraging the skills of an external partner while you're building the business to a stage where you can comfortably manage the risk of taking on a full-time employee, and like you say, taking the duty of care to be able to support them in business.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a really interesting model. And just on the topic of attracting new people to the business as well, and I know something we touched on briefly was that upcoming generation. I think it's the Z. Maybe it'll be another letter soon. And a lot of the CEOs I speak to have very different challenges and perspectives on what is the right model to employ. What are your thoughts on attracting that newer generation, and your experience so far on maybe the expectations and the whole talent ecosystem at that younger age?
I think again, probably it may have something to do with the level of specialization we have. I think that in our field, it's most important to have interesting topic. So what I have seen also in my previous jobs, the people coming to the interview, they say, okay, we like what you are doing. We find it great that you try to help the people with the diseases, that you are doing something for the society. So I think there is in our field, there is really the most important thing is the high degree of identification with the aim of the company, with the long-term goal of the company.
Yeah.
And and I mean, of course, you have to offer attractive salary. This is people sometimes do not like speaking about the money, about earning, etc. It's important. The motivation, you have to like your job. I think this is the same for the generations before, and this is going to be the same for the generations after, maybe with different leverage, but hardly anybody is going to job only because of money. So at first you need to like your job, you need to fulfill yourself with what you are doing. But of course, you need to have good salary, and I think then there is a lot of nowadays there is a lot of add-ons that you have to offer, because as we spoke about, there is a lack of experts and general lack of manpower. So you need to offer some small benefits, and I think this is not like free coffee or free fruits
on the side.
Yeah, so these things are not benefits. They have to be they are like for granted, but probably degree of flexibility, the ability, for example, for my colleagues. Also, previously was always important to be able to take part on the further education, or being able to go to international congresses, to be part of the process. So you need to try to enhance the identification of the employees with the purpose of the company. I think this is very important.
That's a big one. Yeah, absolutely. And I think I've only seen it over the last maybe 5 years, where there's a connection to the mission. And I think it was somebody who I worked with previously talked about the golden thread. The connection to the bigger goal is quite important. And then, like you say, the head, the heart, the wallet.
I mean, the wallet is important. So nobody's going to pay your check at the end of the month.
Yeah, especially at the senior level, where what I see as well, Jakub, is a lot of larger, senior players, sort of VP, senior director, and C-suite, looking to move away from big cap, large corporate, where they feel like they may have lost identity, so they can join a startup or a scale up that's going through some real transformation and growth, and it's going to attack a part of an industry that's really important. So I think from that perspective, over time, you should, I imagine you'll see a great deal of interest from people from larger organizations who are fed up with being part of the bigger organization. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, if you think that way as well.
I think this is something that everybody has to know, or everybody should know, not has to know, but everybody should and will find its place. I, for example, know that, I worked for a very small company after university, and then I worked for the company that was growing exponentially. That I joined the company that really was at the beginning of the exponential growth, and I made this growth with, and I have seen the processes and the transformation. And this was for me very valuable because I have learned a lot. And I have also seen, for example, from my colleagues and friends who work for big pharma, that, for example, I wouldn't be the big corporate guy. So there are people who love the structures, and they have their agenda, and they are proceeding according to plan. And there are people who prefer being more flexible, or they are able to change the plan every second day, and you need to find your place. And if you are tired of being in the management of the larger company, then you are absolutely valuable for every startup, because you bring the network, the experience, everything. But of course, the question is there the chemistry between young dynamic startup and, for example, a senior leader with 20, 30 years experience in big pharma? But I think it's at some certain point, even drastic change is valuable and refreshing.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you still get time for your own personal development, Jakub, as well? And do you get time to step back from the busy life and work on yourself?
Well, I was always very lucky, because the job I was having was also fun for me. Yeah. So earlier I was a very large part, or maybe over 50% of my job was traveling and really being on business trips and being very active. Yeah. So at the moment, also because of the family, I take the luxury that I spend a bit more time with the family than maybe 3 or 4 years ago. But my personal development, I think, is in line with the job I have, because I'm every day learning, with building up the company, with building new relationships, having new challenges. So for me, it's I would say not work-life balance, which is the term I actually do not prefer very much. I would say it's work-life harmony. So
that's really interesting.
It's going hand in hand.
I read that somewhere else, and actually, Dr. Ali Tanazli, CEO of Lifespin, who I interviewed early on this week, he was in France on holiday a few weeks ago, and he said, "Don't worry about emailing me, Matt. Work is my hobby. So I love it so much. I'll be very interactive." So that's really nice. Really nice to hear you talk about that there. That's really interesting to hear your evolution. And if you could look back and pick the phone up and call your younger self, who's just moving away from college or university, what would you tell younger Jakub? Or would you have any advice? Would you have any advice for him 10, 20, 15, 20 years ago?
I would have definitely be more patient. I think really the younger you are, the less patient you are. And you have to, the patience is very important. And I would probably tell myself to spend more time with the family and friends. This is because this is, as I said, this is what I'm coming now back to spend more time with the people around. Because the last, I would say, 5 to 10 years, I was simply working too much, and I was really skipping the social events with the people, important social events, because of job. And I think this was too much. So it's also very important to have time for the people around you, not only working. If you work hard and efficiently in order to save more time for the other things.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people ask me as well, so I'm quite disciplined and focused, and spend a lot of time trying to be effective rather than just busy. Do you have any advice to maybe others in the industry or other leaders on how you manage your time effectively and get the most out of your day, given the demands that you probably have?
Yeah. Oh, I'm not the best example. I'm one of these. I'm not 9 to 5er. I cannot do that. So if there is a nice day and I do not have anything in my calendar, I prefer to go biking, for example, for 2 hours in the morning, and then I work late night. I think it's good to have flexibility. One shouldn't be stressed because of work. That's on, at least, I mean, of course, short-term stress to reach the goal is absolutely okay and needed.
Absolutely.
But suffering half a year in one piece, this is wrong. So just to do some individual arrangement, I would say. And of course, if you see, this is exactly the thing, if you see that you are not productive and you're sitting 2 hours at your desk and doing nothing, then just go out and do something else. Because if you are focused, if you're in a good mood to work, you manage the amount you would need 8 hours for in 3 or 4 hours. And I think this is my personal goal, to be very effective in order to have a lot of time also for other things.
Yeah, absolutely. And what are maybe this is a big question to ask right at the end of the podcast here, but what are some of the key challenges that you're facing in the industry and the sector as a whole at the moment that you may be sharing with other leaders as well? But what are some of the things that you're seeing that are maybe, other than people, causing bottlenecks in the industry?
I think the big challenge is always let's say the growing complexity of the things. So we are, in last 10 years, the humans, the society, have made incredible progress, and it's very challenging to keep the track of everything what is new. And it's more and more challenging to be fast enough. So I think, and of course, it's always challenging to improve already so very good things that we have at the moment. And so it will be, I mean, in order to keep our high standards, we need to keep the growth, and this could be challenging at some certain point.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you have any plans to get out to any of the major conferences and events? Just thinking about where people might be able to see you and Trimt and hear more about the work you're doing.
Trimt is a fairly small company, so we are focusing only on very few congresses. So I think it's now in September, there will be a small German meeting of working groups of radiopharmaceutical sciences, where one of my colleagues, Matthias, who is our head of sales, will be participating. And then in principle, the whole management team of Trimt will be at the European Association of Nuclear Medicine meeting, which is in mid-October in Barcelona. This is the biggest nuclear medicine event in Europe, and also having guests from the whole world. So this will be amazing meeting. After 2 years of virtual meetings, this will be in person, hopefully.
Yeah.
And this will be great to really see some people I haven't seen in person since 2 years. So this will be, I'm really looking forward to be there.
Wonderful. Well, I'll make sure I put all the contact details for people to learn more about Trimt and the great work that you're doing there. And I think there's probably lots more that we could talk about in the future as well. So I'd love to have you back as a guest on the podcast, and we can dive into some other fun topics that might be affecting the world at the time.
Thank you very much. I will be happy to be your guest again, Matt.
Yeah, fabulous. Well, it's been great to have you, Bob. Thanks so much for your insight as well. It's really, really interesting to hear from CEO founders as well, who have got not just the pressure of running the business, but the financial pressure as well of being the founder and shareholder in the company as well. It's really exciting. And I think inspiring as well to others that might be on the fence of moving into their first business. So thanks for sharing those details there. And I'll sign off for today and look forward to catching up with you very, very soon.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Jakub. Speak to you soon.
Have a good day. Bye.
You too.